All right, what's going on, family?
Hey, how's it going there, sir?
Man, it's going. What's going on, Shawn?
What's good? How you feeling?
Whew, man, just taking care of business. We got a special guest on today, the intentional millionaire. We're gonna have some great discussions tonight, talking about being intentional with the bag and everything else.
Yeah, well, first thing I want to thank you all for allowing me to come over. Thank you for, reaching out and allowing me to be able to share. And the main thing today is hopefully I share enough information where everyone able to get some takeaways. And the key thing is not necessarily about what's being said. It's about actually taking the information and implementing and having an actionable result. Because the only true measure of finances and growth is through result.
Yeah, we appreciate you being on the podcast.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
appreciate you, man, and
You
thank
the
you for
first
subscribing to
millionaire.
the channel.
You the first millionaire on the podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm setting ground for an old guy like me. So,
Oh, all right. So, man, I just had a question for you. So I had a question for you. When I was, like I said, I see you on Anton's lives and I see you in these YouTube streets. How did you come up with the name The Intentional Millionaire?
well, because I had a chance to talk with my YouTube mentor, which is TLA, and one of the
TLA.
things, one of the things that we kind of talked about was because I had an old channel called the ROI Network. But when I had started that channel, I had a chance to talk with him, and he was kind of confused about what the name stand for. And he just told me that we had a backstage type of conversation on the stream, and he would just kind of give me ideas, and he would just like I kind of told him about my background. My background is electrical engineering, and one of the things he asked me was, he's like, based on what you do, like, what's some of the things that you done that you kind of think people will? I say, well, I don't really know. I said, I got so much information that I could really share. I said, because as it relates to business, real estate, and I said, I was able to, hit a goal last year. I got my portfolio to $1 million. And when I say last year, I'm talking about 2020. And he stopped me and said, that's it. He said, because it's not a lot of young brothers that look like you that talk about how they got there. And he kind of asked me, so how did that happen? And I just kind of told him that it was by design. I said, I basically worked my tail off. One of the key things that I was able to do was I told them that the biggest thing was I cut myself open and I patched the holes of my own self-awareness. Because when I done that, it allowed me to understand all my strengths, but also my weaknesses. But it also allowed me to understand that the only way I'm gonna get there is I have to make the changes, and I have to get 100% focused on the results. Nothing else really mattered. And in that process, I had became obsessed with hitting the goal. And it's almost like you got to have Teflon on your mind because you're gonna have a lot of distractions, but you got to know how to bounce them off and continue to press forward. So that was how I came up with the name, because when I decided to get into the financial industry at the time, and when I decided to go to school for engineering, everything that I done wasn't never the decision based on what it was in that current present moment. My decisions always was, if I do this now, how this going to affect me 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So because of that, when I when I, kind of shared that with TLA, he was just like, that's it. He said, you need to talk about, you having $1 million portfolio. And then, so we kind of got off, and then later I sat down at night and I just started thinking of names. And then I say, what is a name that truly fits me? And then I went through a couple, and then I was just like, you know what? I say, because when I really look at it, I started writing out like everything I done was intentional. And that's how I came up with the intentional millionaire.
Man.
And then I just broke it down to Tim, because some people called it the international millionaire and things like that. So would they do that? So I just say, well, you can just call me Tim for short.
you went from Roy to Tim. Got it.
Right. And in my old channel, Roy Network, actually Roy it was actually ROI, and it stands for return on investment, but also reclaiming our image.
Ooh,
So
I like that. I like that. I never heard of a channel name like that, reclaiming our image. That's pretty cool too.
right.
I wanted to say, what you just said was powerful because, a lot of people don't understand that it's really all about the results. And I think that's what people are looking at too, because you kind of have some visibility now, now that you're on YouTube and, when you say you got $1 million portfolio, it kind of is eye-opening because a lot of people are going to be in tune too, because they're like, oh, okay, he don't got $20,000 portfolio, but $1 million. Let me go subscribe to him and see what information can I get from him. It's just like Anton. When Anton would get on his shows and talk about, how he's a millionaire, a lot more people are going to be tuned in because they see that's like status. And so you have that visibility, and now you're able to, give YouTubers some game and how they can be intentional and how they can follow steps as well to get those same outcomes. Anything you wanted to add, Shawn?
I was curious. So when did you first start investing?
So I first started investing back in 2000 and it was about 2006. But one of the key things my first investment was a Roth IRA, and this was outside of my 401k because I always invested in the 401k because that's what the company offered at the time. And that was my foundation. My foundation was the 401k, taking full advantage of the company match, because I knew my first day out of engineering school, on my very first day on the job as a new person, entry level, I knew that very first day when I left the job after working 9 hours that I needed to do something outside of that because it was too many people that was making 6 figures and they was complaining. I knew that the very first day. And so because of that, I took advantage of the company matching up to the full amount. And then I just didn't know what to do. And then that's when I got introduced to the Roth IRA. And then I started a Roth IRA with $25 a month at that time. And that was probably the biggest thing because that's really set the pace for my investment journey.
So you had started with 25 a month, and obviously you increased it over the years.
That's correct.
For our listeners.
Yes.
Thinking they can become a millionaire in 14 years off $25.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. You just you got to put something in and get something out.
Yeah.
But no, so what I done was I started with 25. I started the Roth. In that same process, I was working on getting out of debt. I had about $21,000 in debt. I had a car payment, a furniture bill with me and my mom. I had student loan. I had a student loan because I went to community college. Then I transferred on an academic scholarship, went to a university. But the community college, I did do student loans. So I paid that all off, paid the car, paid the furniture bill off. And after that, after paying off the $21,000 in debt in 2.5 years, then that's when I actually increased my Roth IRA from $25 to $150 a month.
Okay. So out of curiosity, when you said you're paying off your debt, is this have any connection to do with Dave Ramsey whatsoever, or you just wanted to pay it off yourself?
No, I didn't even know about Dave Ramsey at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know. So when I paid off the debt, I found out about Dave Ramsey probably about 2000, it was probably about late 2009, early 2010. But I was already had a couple of things. When I found Dave Ramsey, I just kind of restructured some of the stuff I was doing. Just following, his steps, his baby steps or whatever. So I started doing that. But then in that same process, by the time the market had changed, because 2008, the mortgage bubble hit,
Mm.
and then because I had already been a little bit in the financial arena, I took everything that I kind of had and put it in the market, because that's when everything was on sale, on discount.
Mm.
But before we go, I want to make sure that people know this is not financial advice. This is for information purposes only. Okay. Please consult with your CPA, your financial planner, your tax advisor. This is for information purposes only. But with that being said, so that's kind of what I done. But that was the best thing that could have happened for me, because during that same time, we had just transitioned over to 2010, and it was an IPO that went public, and I took $7,000. It was $7,000. I brought some stock on the IPO, and within a couple of years, it had went from that $7,000 had grew to about 20 some $1,000. And that was like in 2 years, and then in a couple more years, it grew again. But by that time, I had got introduced to real estate. So what I done was I took the money that was in my Roth IRA, because I knew that I could use some of that money to purchase a home. So I used some of that to purchase my first home. But when I went in to make the purchase, one of the key things that I was very strategic about was making a purchase in the area one that was up and coming, but also when I go to rent it, I wanted to make positive cash flow. So that was kind of some of the foundations that I had when I actually started my journey.
That was brave, putting your Roth IRA money into the IPO. Like I'd be like, I'm putting everything in the VTI. But
no, I didn't put my Roth IRA money in the. I didn't put my IRA money into the IPO. No, I put my Roth IRA money into the real estate. I just had saved money because I was in the saving process, and I knew I wanted to get in real estate. It just so the IPO came before the real estate opportunity came.
Okay, so this was like a different account.
Yeah.
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 Okay. I was about to say, I'm like,
Yeah, that was I just want to make sure we got that right. But the reason why I did it, and I also did the Roth IRA, was because you get the exemption for being able to take up the money out to purchase your first home up to $10,000, and there's no tax penalty or anything. So I wanted to leverage that, because I knew in the financial industry very early on that every decision you make, you have to also think about the tax strategy. So that was one of the key things that I was very mindful of. And just having my engineering background, it kind of helped, because it forced you to pay attention to the details, the stuff that other people really, the average consumer may not pay attention to. So that was one thing that I really got good at, paying attention to the details. And the details for me was always, how is this going to affect me tax-wise? So, because I did not like this guy named Uncle Sam that I never met, don't know what he looked like, but before I got my paycheck, he already had his hands in my money.
All the time. That's powerful, the intentional millionaire. You said a couple of things that that I think that's very important to point out. Often, because you invested, during the recession, right? If I'm not mistaken, right? And so we had the pandemic in 2020, and something that's important is that the people who always have cash, during these times, they're ultimately the winners. They come out on the other side because they're able to take advantage of, certain assets, being on sale, and able to deploy that capital only to watch it grow exponentially. I mean, once the economy recovers. And, that Roth IRA is very important because, like you said, a lot of people don't pay attention to the details. You was able to take money out for your, your first home. And you can also take that money out and go, and you can take a portion of it out. I think now they passed it where you can use some of the money to go pay off, student loans. And
Yes, you
so,
could do. There's a couple things you could do for higher education expenses, for medical or something, disabled, disability, something like that, for your first time home. And I think I think they the major three that you could take out your Roth IRA.
And so I just want to, that's true. And I just want to ask you this too, because you said, you know, once you came out of engineering school, you kind of figured out, hey, I need to go find something else to do too, because everybody get into the bag. Was you already kind of like financially literate during that time? Like, were you actually, you know, deep into understanding, like, you know, different things going on in finance when you was in engineering school, or did that come a little later?
That came a little later. When I came out of engineering school, the only thing I knew was engineering. I just knew differential equations, calculus 4, thermodynamics. That's the only thing I knew at that time. And my financial journey really started when I started getting into more financial books. The biggest book for me at the time, it was one major book that really changed everything for me, and that was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Eckert. When I read that book, it taught me the most important thing. When I told you that I had to cut myself open, it taught me that I needed to deprogram what I thought about money and my concept of money, and then reprogram the right things to have money. And that's what I actually done. So when I had started working in the engineering field, at the same time, I started, you know, reading The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. But in that same transaction period, me getting more into reading more about finances, because I always read. I had stopped reading back when the Martin Show stopped. But the thing was, I refocused into reading more about financial, the markets, things like that. So when I started doing that, the great thing was it allowed me to open doors to other opportunities and other books. So then I started getting more into self-help books. The next book that really was a game changer was Think and Grow Rich. And it's a lot of the standard books that you hear a lot of people reference a lot, but they was game changers for me because my background, I come up from, you know, the projects, you know. So for me, you know, I'm the youngest of 5. I got a sister that's the oldest, 2 older brothers. Then I got a brother that's a year older than me. But my brother that's a year older than me, to my second to the oldest brother, we got like it's 11-year age gap. So I was the first of 5 to even go to college. So with that all being said, I figured that I had to figure out all the student loan stuff. I had to figure all that out on my own because my parents didn't have a college background. My dad, he was in the Air Force for about a year or 2. And then he just kind of worked at the shipyard. And my mom, she always did daycare. She worked with the infants. So she didn't make a lot of money, but she kind of worked because she just made enough just to supplement little stuff around the house. But because of that, I came in not having no understanding of none of that. The only reason why I went into engineering was because, just to backtrack, because I'm trying to give you all just a background of me, but I'm gonna bring it back to your question as well.
Okay.
So I went to engineering school, but most people don't know when I graduated high school, it took me 2 years before I decided to go to college because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know anything about college. My mom and dad only said, you know, as long as you just work and do, you know, be a good citizen, you'll be good. So I worked for 2 years at a hotel, and it was a popular hotel, but I saw so much backstabbing, so much inconsistency, so much bad stuff happen. I was just like, I think I need to get a career. So I went to the local community college, and at the community college, I went to the guidance counselor, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't have no background, no reference to really ask. So what I just told the guidance counselor was, when I was in high school, math was very easy for me. I never took books home. I always did the homework before class was over. And I say, sign me up for something that's math based. A lot of people don't pass, and it's challenging. And she said, I got the perfect curriculum for you, engineering. She said, a lot of people don't finish. So she signed me up. So that's how I ended up in engineering, believe it or not. So and I say that all to say that when I look back at so many things I've done, it really was intentional. Because, you know, how many people go in and say, give me one of the harder professions that's math-based and sign me up. And I just went like a mad cat and just done it. But that was only because my 2 years of working in the, you know, in the hospitality industry, where I realized that I needed a career. See, but if I never had that experience, I don't know, I probably wouldn't have went to college. I don't know. So that's just kind of some of the background. So to answer your point though, so all of that happened, I had no financial background. Everything was shooting from the hip, figure it out, make mistakes. A lot of stuff happened in between that we don't probably have enough time to get into, because throughout all of that, I had gotten a car accident that made the front news. The only thing that I was able to get out of the car with just neck abrasion, the whole windshield smashed in my face. They had to get a jaws of life, get me out of the car, and I was able to walk away blessed. That's all I could tell you. So the first semester of college, I didn't even start because of the accident. So that happened. I had the counselor had screwed up my financial aid. So the first semester, I didn't even have no money, so I paid some of it out of pocket. So it was so much stuff happened. When I just look back, it was a blur, but I just say that I still figure everything out. I made mistakes. I did a lot of stuff wrong. But with that being said, I just say that I got to the point where I just knew that the only thing that really mattered was continue to press forward. But I would say that I think the only reason why I was able to push through was because I was reading. And most of the books I was reading, the people in the books always had some level of adversity. In adversity, I knew I accepted that. I almost, you could say I was probably halfway not thinking normal, because I almost accepted that that means that I'm right on the curve or on the verge of something good happening. So that's kind of what really helped shape me, was kind of some of that journey, some of those things that happened. And then, you know, just not really seeing, you know, money at the time, because, you know, when I grew up in the projects, even though my dad was there every night, but my dad, he was kind of lackadaisical on paying the bills. So he would just do just barely enough, because it was times we had lights cut off, had gas cut off, things like that. And we was in a traditional house because he was the breadwinner. He paid most of the bills, and my mom kind of just worked just to make little money here and there. So, you know, seeing that, and I knew I just wanted different.
Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate that, Tim. I had a quick question. So you said that going through all of that, you decided to pick up a book. So no one recommended it, or did you how did you choose to read those books? Like, what was the deciding factor?
Well, I decided to read books was because when I was in high school, right, it was a little before I graduated, I had a friend that mentioned that his family used to state to him that they will always be superior to people of color because they don't know the answer to their problems is in books and they don't like to read. And I took that personal. So when I took that personal, I just knew that I can go to the library and I can get books for free. I ain't had to pay for them. And that's what I done. So, you know, that's what really got me to reading books. And like I said, I started reading books. And then in the process of reading books, I met people when I was going to the community college, I was used to tutor in the math lab. And I met people that was in, you know, either professor or they was like somebody in the community And I will always ask them, hey, what's a good book that I should pick up? Because what I was doing, and I didn't know it then, but I was conditioning myself to be able to get outside of the box, because most people don't know I'm naturally an introvert. You know, I prefer not to talk to people, this and that. I could be happy just keep going. But, you know, part of that journey and that growing requires you have to get outside of the box, because, you know, a closed mouth don't get fed. So, and then also too, nobody can help you if they don't know you need help. So you got to say something. And I always believed that there was no such thing as a dumb question. I think the person that kind of made that statement was just trying to be belittling somebody. I don't know who, but because how can you say a question is dumb if you don't even ask the question?
That's a good point. That's true.
And then how can you even say it's dumb if you don't even know the scope of what you're really asking? So I just don't, for me, I just don't necessarily believe in that. But I was never bashful about asking questions and seeking information. That's one thing I will say that I got good at, because I felt like at one point I was already at the bottom, so I couldn't go no further. So the only way was eventually up at some point. I just figured it out.
That's powerful. So I wanted to ask you, so you was talking about a couple of books. You said, I think you said The Secrets of the
Millionaire Mind by 𝗕𝗓 Eckert. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Another key book was Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Tommy put me on that book. I didn't finish it yet, but I started the audio book on YouTube.
Yeah. And then the last one was The Power of Focus by Jack Cranfield. Those was pinnacle books for me that really allowed me to really unleash. And my favorite book is, you know, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind and Outwitting the Devil. I mean, Outwitting the Devil, though, I think that's one of my best books, because I done read that 7 times now, and I could just continue to read that and get re-excited, because when he's having that conversation, I always see myself as sitting down and just really reflecting, and just really allow myself to continue to keep everything in a particular order, and know that the most powerful thing, because most people think, you know, the $1 million, the portfolio, the net worth, that's all great. But the biggest takeaway and the biggest thing that I want people to know is success is really not about the money. The success is really when you're able to cut yourself open and you can identify your own holes, but then you have strategies and you have solutions and you have things that you're using and tools in your toolkit to be able to mitigate and be able to maneuver. But then you be in contentment with yourself and you can genuinely be at peace. That's true success. When you're able to look at all 5 pillars: your financial life, spiritual life, your physical life, your mental life, your emotional life, when you're able to really can have some level of, you kind of at the same level across the board, not saying that, you know, you never actually there, but when you can say you at least more steady state, then you really rocking and rolling.
I appreciate you sharing all those books. That was actually one of my questions after watching so much of your content. I'm like, man, I wonder what his favorite book is. That was the one thing I didn't hear. Is it a book that you're reading right now?
Yes, I'm actually reading 3 books right now.
What are they?
The 𝗕𝗓 IRA handbook. I'm also reading Outwitting the Devil again, but this time I'm reading it from the standpoint of things that I want to teach throughout me, you know, sharing information, things like that. Because I know that, you know, one of the key things that when I really look back, because I do sometimes reflect. So normally when I get up in the morning, And I'm gonna come back to your question because I like to kind of give examples of my actual life and also answer your question. So if you're okay with that, is that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So because normally when I get up in the morning, I try to take 30 minutes to an hour and don't do anything and just sit there and think. Because what it does, it gives you clarity. Most people get up, they go for their phone. Most people get up and they start their routine. No, I don't do that. It gives me clarity. It allows me to get my 30 minutes or an hour session of just peace. Because most people don't know how much good that's going to do, but it also sets the pace for your day. And I always notice when I don't do it, the day don't go as smooth as it do when I do it. So by doing that, it allows me to kind of really set the pace, but it also helps me create the habits. And that's why I'm using the book Outwitting the Devil, is because I want people to know that everything has to start in the mind. And once your mind can really align with what your heart say, then you really can make the actions happen. And it almost come innate, if that make any sense. It's almost like spider senses. It really is. Because when I just kind of told you all, so I know, and I'm gonna come back to, your books question. But when I told you all, when I spoke with TLA, I had just started the ROI network, but it was crazy because right before I got on YouTube, I had already been thinking about, I wanted to do somewhere I really wanted to share and get all this information that I know from the financial arena to people, because it's just me. I don't have any kids. So my legacy can then be is what information I leave behind that people can gravitate from, and then they can elevate to whatever level they feel is best for them. And the goal is for them to surpass the level that I'm at. So that's kind of what I was thinking about. And it just so happens when I just happened to have that time with TLA, it all came together. It was almost like I said, it's just almost like it was just, it just kind of all came together. And so, but with that being said, so I'm reading I already read the handbook. I'm reading Outwitting the Devil again. I'm also reading, oh shoot, what's the name of that book? I can't remember the name of the book. It's the something handbook. It was a book that was recommended by another content creator. I started reading that. I'm on it at the intro. So, and then I'm also reading this book on how to use OBS, because I'm trying to figure out using OBS for a couple things. So I got a book on that, and I'm just reading that because it's some technical stuff that I'm trying to figure out. So
what's OBS?
OBS, that's a streaming platform, a free streaming platform, and OBS is built by the company that builds the cam links. And OBS kind of works like StreamYard, where it has a streaming service, but you could also do live streams. It has the built-in overlay, and a lot of gamers use OBS. So that's kind of what I was looking at, because the thing is, I want to eventually see if I can get my streams in true 4K. So, StreamYard actually compresses the video. So you either do, and depending on which price you do, you either do 720p or 1080p. So I want it true 4K. So, because I'm a techie at heart. So
nothing wrong with that. See, so wow, so yeah, like I said, this is powerful, man, and it's crazy how how your life can change when you actually intentional. That's what I'm getting from your story, because based on your upbringing, a lot of people would have gave up, not having you know, parents that went to school and, you know, not having that guidance, you know, and so they would have just caved in and said, you know, I'm not going to be successful because of, you know, the environment I'm growing in, or this was the cards that I was dealt. And so you
Mm-hmm.
kind of push back on that and you wanted more for yourself. And so I think that's very powerful because it shows that, you know, we kind of control our own destiny to an extent, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
it's up to us to get the outcomes. Like it may not, you know, everybody is dealt a different deck of cards, and life may be difficult for some, it may be easier for others, but you gotta keep pushing. It's kind of how they say we build it as we fly it. We build this plane as we fly it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like everything's not going to be perfect, but we're going to keep pushing and keep moving. And so that's kind of, I like how you talked about that. And I also like how you talked about self-awareness, because I think that is very important. A lot of people go around life in life not thinking about themselves. They don't truly know themselves. But when you know yourself, you can take a look and say, okay, there's some things I need to change. I need to go in and do this. I need to go in and do that. So that's why self-awareness is very important. But I also wanted to ask you this too, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on your path to becoming a millionaire, what challenges have you had to overcome during that process?
The first challenge is self, because sometimes when you first start out, the journey is kind of lonely, because you know you got to cut off some friendships, you got to cut off family members. And when I say cut off, that don't mean you just go ghost MIA. That just means that you stop entertaining a lot of time and giving a lot of time to stuff that's not conducive to the results you want. Also, one of the bigger challenges was just really knowing how to make things work was a challenge, because I didn't have a lot of initially, I didn't have a lot of people or things I can go to. So I was reading, because you're in a different time now. YouTube wasn't as big then. So it's not like you can go to a YouTube, you see what I'm saying? So it was really just kind of find people or somebody that was willing to pour into me. That was a challenge. And then the next biggest challenge was really just identifying with setting goals and then hitting goals. But then realizing, because you'll know that what I found was you never hit the goal exactly on the date that you set it.
Mm-hmm.
It's normally lag by a month or two, or 3 months, or whatever the case may be. But the goal is, the biggest thing is that you set something, you went after it. That was a challenge because I would get so caught up on the fact that I set this goal and I didn't hit it in the time frame that I hit it. So it was more of that, again, going back to being more self-aware, that you have to know that you got to appreciate your small wins. So allow me to then understand that it's not about the big win that's important. It's the small wins in between. It's the run in between, because the run in the between is what's really building out your character and building out your endurance, because you got to have endurance for your goals. If you don't have endurance, you'll never get there. And when you do get there, it's not going to be self-fulfilling like you thought it was, because you took so many bruises and bumps in between, and you didn't accept that that's part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a challenge for me, accepting the process. Because when you go in and you're just doing stuff, all these things you figuring it out on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you really set something big that you're really excited about, you're like, hold up, this ain't work out like I thought it was. Because you had this perfect plan mapped out, this and that. So that was some of my challenges, was just really understanding it's a process. You got wins in between. You got to celebrate those. But what that did allow me to do was, it allowed me to then understand that I created my own reward punishment system. Meaning, so if I had, let's just say, like a 1-year goal, I would break it up into quarters. Okay. 4 quarters in a year. And if I didn't hit my first quarter mark, then I didn't do no fun stuff. See, because just going back to when I decided I wanted to get out of debt, when I decided I was going to get out of debt in that 2.5 years, I didn't go on no vacation. I didn't take no time off. I didn't take no time off. I mean, I didn't take no vacation, no time off. No, I had to get after it. And if I wasn't working because we was required to be off, then I was doing something else to make money, washing cars. You know, I washed cars. I cut a little bit of grass at the time. I just did whatever because all I knew was I need to get out of debt. So I need to keep grinding. And I don't deserve anything because I got debt. And that's how I kind of planned it out. Because remember now, I originally had that goal set for 2 years. But it was 2.5 years that I hit it. So all of this was happening, but I was building out a foundation for being able to have the endurance. I was building out the foundation to just be able to get through my own challenges. But it allows me to have Teflon. It allowed me to really build Teflon. That's why I didn't, you know, when I started going to family things and started hearing, oh, you think you this, you think you that, you don't want to come around, this and that. I didn't, it's like, you say whatever, I got something going after right now, because in my mind, what I was saying was, you can't help me for what I need right now. I mean, I need some money right now. Can I get $5? You see what I'm saying? You can't help me now, but you're telling me about this. But I knew I was just all of that had to happen because it was helping me condition this. It was helping me condition my mind and say, yeah, this is what's supposed to happen because I'm doing something different. And even for family members, it sets the bar because they're going to talk about you because you come from the same bloodline, but you're breaking outside of the pack. So they supposed to say something. Supposed to. So all of that was helping. They was all my challenges that kind of happened as I was running.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely something that you kind of see, you know, in the community, is that, you know, it's kind of like with families, kind of like, you know, like you said, we come from the same bloodline, and a lot of us, you know, we all start, you know, at the start line of the race, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, as you break out of that mold or break that trend, that generational trend, you know, it's kind of like the family start trying to like push back, you know, and say like, oh, you think you're better than anybody else. But in the end, only thing you're trying to do is make something better for yourself. And that's something that we see in the community, you know, so often. You know, I think it's misunderstood. It's not the fact that a lot of us think we're better than, you know, our people. It's just that we want better. We've seen what they went through, and we said, you know, that's not it, you know, for a variety of things, and ultimately we do better.
You had said that you had no kids, right? In one of your videos, you said you were single. Are you still single?
Yes.
Okay. I was curious to know, like, once you hit that $1 million goal, like, what's next? Because, like, for me, I've always thought, you know, the point of being a millionaire was so that you can pass it on to somebody else. So, like, what's your why and what keeps you driven?
So my why and what keeps me driven. So two things. That's a great question. The first thing is, so because I don't have any kids and not married, I do want that. However, it's just finding somebody suitable to willing to understand what the true game plan is. Because really, I knew automatically when I decided that I was going to run the journey, I knew that I already know that I wasn't going to be the biggest benefactor of everything that I created. I knew that up front. But that I'm okay with that, because I know that sometimes it takes someone to somebody has to pave the way so people know it is a way. So I accepted that up front when I came to grips with myself. So now I'm looking for that, because now what I'm looking for is a wife, possibly a child, but the wife duty is to teach these things to the child, so that way not only do she know, because if something happened to me, she don't have to worry about the wolves and the hounds coming to cohese her out of everything, but also too for her to teach the child, so that way she ain't got to worry about the child just getting a large lump sum or whatever, and they just going and blow it off with friends and doing a bunch of goofy stuff because nobody taught he or she about finances. So that way it can actually live at least 3 generations. So in just a lot of in my experiences, that's just kind of what is harder to find, because most people are only thinking in the now, but I'm thinking beyond now. So that's one. So because of that, so since I don't have that, that's what made me really do the channel the way I'm doing the channel, is because I look at now, since my legacy is not that right now through family and offspring, then my next level of dedication that I can give back is through legacy of, let me grab a few good men that want to learn how to do this and gravitate and get some of the things that they can pull themselves up, and then they can do that for their family. And that's really what it's about, because sometimes legacy is not necessarily directly in your bloodline. Legacy can be how you was an impact player that changed somebody else's life. So legacy to me equals one word: significance. Was you significant enough while you was breathing that you impacted people from a positive position? So that's one. That's answer your question on that, but also what continues to get me excited, because the job's not done yet. When I look at statistics and see that, people that look like you and I is at the bottom of all statistics, I know the job is not done yet. So as long as I got a heartbeat, I'm gonna keep on fighting. And for me, when it's over is when they pat me in the face with a shovel. Until then, we can keep on rocking and rolling. So I try to, and why is that important as well, is because I know too that for me, the other side of that is, if I don't get married or don't find a significant other, I still have to plan for how I'm going to take care of my basic needs if my body or my health don't allow me to work. And that's the same for both man and female. And the challenge is for men is, we know that if we don't have the resources or the money or the finances, they're going to put us on the street in America. So I know that that's the other side of that. So I'm trying to look at it from a holistic standpoint and cover all bases, because why only go in tunnel vision when you got to really think about, my health can change at any given moment. Everybody's one doctor visit where their health can be totally different. And I'm not immune to that. I'm just like anybody else. I'm human. So I just want to put every art in my favor so I can at least still be able to live a little bit before I go away from here.
I like that. So I just want to ask one last question. So when it comes to your investments, would you say that you're more so focused on real estate, or are you more invested into stocks?
It's about 50-50, but I'm more now leaning more towards real estate, because just how everything is kind of working out. But I still always gonna say, because my initial foundation was investing, but it switched to real estate. And the reason why is because with real estate, you get better tax advantage. You get a 3-for-1, because you can go in with appreciation. You can also get right now cash flow. And then you also get a chance to take advantage of the tax benefits.
Yeah.
Whereas Whereas in any other investment, crypto, stocks, ETFs, any other type of asset class, when you do a transaction, it's a taxable event. So that's the key thing, and why I'm always going to have my foundation in real estate, because crypto is great. I'm not this most savvy in crypto. I have some. I got into it, but I know that anytime I do anything with crypto is a blockchain that's tracking it. And when I do that, then unless I'm really into the coding part, most of the time any transaction I do is going to be a taxable event. So
I have like a part B to that question.
Mhm.
Because I knew the answer to that question based off of another video you said. I'm like, okay, I know what he's going to say on that question. So I want to take it one step deeper. We know that you got started with stocks. We know that you took out the $10,000 to get started in real estate, right?
Mhm.
I think even in one of your videos, you said you went from 1 property to 4. So I'm going to say you're about 4 properties right now.
Mhm.
I'm interested to know, what is the asset class that you're not currently invested in that you're learning more about that you would invest in the future?
Oh, that's a good question. It was crypto, and I'm in it now. So it really was. It was crypto. Right now, is no other asset class that I would want to get into now.
No NFTs or anything like that?
No, I don't know too much about those. I don't think I want to really get into NFTs.
Okay.
And the reason why is because just with some of the stuff that's going on, I don't really think it's going to be sustainable long term how it's being done. So I think by the time I really get in and probably really want to make some real money and do a long-term strategy, it's probably going to be overshadowed and old. And the government gonna have their hands so much in it, it's not gonna be real beneficial. So for me, not necessarily NFTs. Because the thing with crypto is it's been solidified through Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is kind of like the granddaddy of cryptocurrency. And because of that, it has a place in this marketability now. And because of that, now you could really look at crypto as a long-term part of your strategy. But I just can't say that for NFTs. So, but that's me though. But that don't mean that could change. I may try it or whatever. But right now, not no.
So basically, crypto right now, you want to delve more into it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, was that it, Trey?
Oh, I just want to add one more thing. So
Mhm.
it seems like you're looking at everything from a business perspective. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes, and long-term strategy. See,
Okay.
because here's the thing. A lot of young people can do it so much faster than me. You just got to go in as soon as you get an opportunity to start. You got to start, and you got to start as soon as a person really turn 18, where they can get an account in their name and stuff, they really need to start. And by the time they 30, 31, man, they can really have a ton of money in the market. I mean, really. And that's where I just believe, but I know for me, because you gotta think about I'm a Gen X, so I was right there at the cusp of when the internet became popular and things like that. So everything, either I had my chance, I didn't have my chance. So it was more of building blocks of the old school way. Had to go to the library to get books. You know, I came in when, around the time CDs had just really hit the market, and all that stuff. So with that being said, I just think it's based off generations. I think this generation can do it so much faster. And
Yeah.
I think that a young person, really in this day and age really can leverage it. They just got to really be paying attention and get rid of all the noise. So the pro of social media is you got all the information in front of you. The con with social media is you got all the information in front of you. And you might be asking, well, that's all the same. Yes, because you can get inundated with so much information that you start getting distracted off what are you really there for? And that's the biggest thing now in this era is you got to be able to manage your distractions so you can stay focused on your goal. Because even for myself, I even still have that challenge where sometimes I could be, reading something, researching something, doing something, and then something will pop up and I get sidetracked and I just lost 15 minutes looking at something that really ain't giving me no real value, no real nothing. It's just wasting time.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Because so if that happened to me, I know it happened for somebody that's really into all this technology, TikTok and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I could just imagine. So I say that's one of the key things. But I just say this, the key takeaway from that is, I think people just really, it don't matter what age, just sit down, identify what do you actually want. Then think about if you're younger, keep your expenses low, stay out of debt, and save and invest as much money as possible. So when I say save, you only need about $2,000 in your savings. Everything else you need to be invested. Because if you young and don't have no responsibilities, you got over a $2,000 emergency, you got other issues. So that's what my recommendation would be. Having 6 months and this and that special case, I would think a person only really needs 3 to 6 months in emergency fund if they work in a job market that's very unstable. But if they're in a stable job market, it's a lot of opportunity. They don't really need to do that because their money is getting killed due to inflation. So they need to have about $2,000 in their immediate account for immediate emergency. Car breakdown, may need some tires, may need an alternator, whatever. Then anything over that, they need to have an investment. And then they need to take a full advantage of the company match, their 401k, 403b, 457 plan. And if the company don't offer that, then they need to go out and get a Roth IRA and fully fund it up to $6,000 a year. And they need to have 3 index or ETF funds in that Roth IRA. And they need to go to one of the 5 major places: TD Ameritrade, Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. I always forget the last one. I always forget the last one. What was it?
Vanguard?
Yeah, Vanguard. That's it. So they need to go to one of those, open up that Roth IRA, and fully fund that guy. And then after that, they need to go open up. Then after they fully fund that Roth IRA, then they need to go start their HSA if they're in a high deductible plan, and they need to take advantage of that. Then after they do the HSA, they need to go back and then fully fund the rest of their 401k, 403, 457 plan.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do that in 10 years, there's no doubt in my mind, if they sell out to that, they could become a millionaire. Matter of fact, they could probably do it in 5 to 7 years. They really get serious.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, I got the Roth IRA check. I got the FSA check. I don't got a 403b. I don't trust the investments my schoolmate, but I'd rather do it by myself. But yeah, I'm following that plan right now.
Mm-hmm. So that's what I would recommend, because you got to have the foundation set. Do y'all got anything else? Because I don't want to make sure I don't want to go over time, but I do got one more gem that I do want to drop on one thing that I shared.
Go ahead.
So one of the questions that I get asked sometime is, so why did you take the money? Because in your 401k, 403b, 457 plan, you can also take money out to purchase your first home. Why did you not do that and you did it out of the Roth IRA? Well, the reason why is because I wanted the 401k to always be my foundation. That's why it's so critical to have other things that you can leverage so you can get in more asset classes and still don't jeopardize your foundation. That's why I done it that way. It was by design, because I said, if I can go do this, in worst case scenario, if everything else fail, I still got this. Because once you pull out of that, you do have to know that now that's the opportunity cost that could be missed if you don't get the right investments and grow the money the right way. See, so it's a cost either way. It's either you pay now, pay later, but you going to pay either way. It's no getting around that, good or bad, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, especially
you just got to be strategic.
Anything else you wanted to add, Shawn?
No, those were all my questions. I appreciate you, Tim. You answered a lot of questions like in your stories, so I didn't have to ask them because you were
okay.
Yeah. What about you, Trey?
I'm good, man. I was just gonna say, Tim, I just want to say thank you for taking out the time and coming up on the show. And like I said, I appreciate what you're doing over there on your side. It's definitely important that we have more people like yourself in the community, that's offering, information and offering information to the masses where we can take that information and do what you did in terms of being intentional to get those results. Because I don't think that's, talked about enough in our community. I think we're more so focused on things that don't add value, such as, going out and buying cars that depreciate and all this other stuff, but to see you on YouTube looking to pour into other people and talk about these things, the Roth IRAs, the 401ks, I appreciate that.
Well, I want to say I appreciate you guys for allowing me to come over. I appreciate, just the opportunity. I'm always humble to know that, somebody want at least hear me and listen to me. So I try to make sure I come over and get the best that I got, and always try to drop something that somebody can, take the information and do something with it. Because at the end of the day, that's really what matters, is just taking something and do something different than you done the day before. And then just asking the question so you continue to press your financial journey forward. And thanks you all again.
Thank you.
All right. And I'm Trey.
I'm Shawn.
And I'm the intentional millionaire, also known as Tim.
Thank you for tuning in.